The moment he barked those words at me, something inside me shattered. I had raised him with lullabies, stood by his hospital bed during fevers, and watched his face light up at every birthday cake, and now, here I was, 78 years old, being spoken to like I was some nuisance. I wasn't supposed to be here, not like this. After Henry passed, after the cancer took him slowly and cruelly, I thought I'd have a quiet life. I pictured knitting by the window, maybe planting tomatoes in a small backyard. Not this. Not the sharp words of my own son reverberating through the walls. Not walking on eggshells in a house I helped build emotionally, financially, spiritually. It all started a few weeks ago. The yelling had become more frequent. Not at me, at the kids, his kids, my grandkids. Olivia is only 6. She still mixes up Tuesday and Thursday. Jamie's 9, a little bookworm, but sensitive. Sensitive like his father once was, before life hardened him into someone I barely recognize. That night, Jamie dropped his glass of milk, an honest mistake. The cup slipped from his hand, shattered on the tile, milk pooling like a ghost across the floor. My son, Daniel, erupted. "God, Jamie, why can't you just be careful for once?" he snapped. Jamie shrank back. I saw it in his shoulders. The way he tucked his chin, like a dog flinching before the hit. I stepped in. "Daniel, please lower your voice. They're just children." And then it came. The sentence that changed everything. "It's my house, you don't get to tell me how to raise my kids." My heart thudded like a drum in a closed room. I didn't reply right away. My mouth opened slightly, but I didn't have the words. Not yet. The heat in my chest hadn't reached my throat. It stayed there, sizzling in silence. Later that night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, its blades slicing time into cruel increments. I remembered his 5th birthday. I had made him a dinosaur cake from scratch. He'd hugged me so tightly back then. Now, 25 years later, he barely looks at me when I speak. How did we get here? The next morning, I poured cereal for the kids while Daniel was already stomping around the kitchen. He barely muttered a morning, brushing past me as though I were furniture. His wife, Marissa, stayed quiet. She always did. She used to be warmer, more inviting. But over the years, her silence became her armor. We used to be close. She once told me I was the mother she never had. Now she avoids eye contact. "Jamie," I said softly, passing him his bowl. "Accidents happen. You did nothing wrong, sweetheart." Daniel glanced up from his phone. "What are you doing?" "I'm reassuring your son," I replied calmly. He didn't respond. Just exhaled, loud enough to make a point. There was a time I had my own house. A modest place, with ivy curling up the trellis and wind chimes that sang on summer nights. But when Henry passed and my arthritis worsened, Daniel suggested I move in with them. "It'll be easier," he said. "You won't have to worry about mowing lawns or stairs." I believed him. I sold the house. I gave him part of the sale to help with renovations. I gave up my independence willingly because I loved him. But I wasn't a guest anymore. I was background noise. The days blurred together. Daniel worked long hours, but when he came home, his fuse was always short. The kids grew quieter around him. Marissa seemed nervous when he was around. I started picking up on little things, the way Olivia froze when her fork clanged too loud, the way Jamie tensed when the garage door opened. They were afraid of him. Not bruises, not black eyes, but fear lives in the unseen. One afternoon, I found Jamie in the laundry room. He was curled behind the hamper, hugging his knees. "Sweetheart," I whispered, kneeling slowly beside him. "What's wrong?" He shook his head, but tears fell anyway. "He yelled at me because I forgot to bring in my lunchbox," he said through hiccuping sobs. I held him. I hadn't held him in so long. He felt small, like Daniel once did. That night, I made a decision. I waited until the kids were asleep. I walked into the living room, where Daniel sat watching some crime show, a beer in his hand. "We need to talk," I said. He didn't look away from the screen. "About what?" "About the yelling, the fear, the way you speak to your children." He finally turned to me. His eyes were bloodshot, tired, impatient. "Mom, don't start. I'm serious. This is not the home I want for Olivia and Jamie. They're frightened of you. You think I don't know how to raise my kids? You think you're better than me," he snapped. "I think you're hurting them." He stood up. "This is my house. You don't get to lecture me under my roof." "I gave you money for this roof," I said, my voice trembling. "I gave you everything." "You gave me guilt," he shot back. "You always have." That stunned me. I opened my mouth, but the room began to spin slightly. My knees felt weak. I held onto the back of the couch. "I'm going to bed," he said, grabbing his beer and disappearing down the hall. I sat down, hands shaking as I reached for my water. I hadn't felt so alone since the day we buried Henry. The next morning, Marissa stopped me in the hallway. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I heard you two last night." I nodded. "I'm sorry," she said. "He's just tired. Work is." "It's not an excuse," I said gently. "Your children are walking on glass. You are too." She looked away. I didn't push further. Later that week, I sat at the park with Olivia while Jamie was at school. She giggled as she pushed her stuffed rabbit down the slide. "I like when you pick me up from school," she said. "Why, sweetheart?" "You never yell," she replied. It was such a simple statement, but it landed in my chest like a stone. That night, I started packing. Not a suitcase, just a drawer. A few sweaters. My photo album. My late husband's watch. I didn't know where I'd go yet, but I knew I couldn't stay. Not like this. I waited 2 more days before telling anyone. I needed time to think, to plan, to gather the courage. It's strange how much bravery it takes to walk away from your own child. That Thursday morning, Daniel was already out. Marissa was getting the kids ready for school. She looked exhausted, not just sleepy, but worn down in the bones, like life had slowly scraped pieces of her away. I stood near the kitchen island, hands wrapped around a mug of tea I didn't drink. "Can we talk for a minute?" I asked her when the kids had gone. She hesitated, glancing at the clock. "Sure. I've got 10 before my call. I think I need to leave." Her brows furrowed. "What?" "I've overstayed. It's time I go." No, you don't have to. Things are tense now, but I can't be here anymore, Marissa. The children need calm. You need space. And I need peace." Her lip trembled slightly, and she looked away. "Where will you go?" "I'm not sure yet. Maybe a senior apartment community. There's one near the library, I think." She looked like she wanted to say something, maybe apologize, maybe thank me, maybe ask me to stay. But she didn't. And that, I realized, said it all. I called Grace that afternoon. Grace had been my best friend for 40 years. We met at a church picnic in 1983. Her husband died a few years before Henry. She now lived in a small one-bedroom apartment about 20 minutes away. "Can I come by?" I asked. "Of course," she said. "You never need to ask." When I arrived, I sat on her couch and told her everything. I didn't cry, not until the part where Jamie hid in the laundry room. That broke me. "I don't know what's worse," I said, voice shaking. "Being treated like a burden or watching your grandkids slowly break under the weight of their father's anger." Grace reached over and took my hand. "You're not a burden, Margaret. You're a mother who gave everything. And now you have the right to choose yourself." That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next day, I started making calls. I toured a couple of senior housing options. Nothing fancy, just somewhere clean and quiet. A place where no one would raise their voice. Where I wouldn't feel like I was always in the way. I found one small, sunlit, with a view of a garden. They had a vacancy opening up in 3 weeks. I put my name down. That Sunday, I asked Daniel to sit down with me. He didn't want to. He sighed loudly, muttered something about needing to mow the lawn, but eventually plopped onto the couch, arms folded. "I'm moving out," I said. Silence. "Good," he finally replied. That stung. Even though I had prepared for it, it still hit like a slap. "I found a place. I'll be out in a few weeks." He didn't look at me, just nodded once. I stood up. My legs felt like lead. "You might not realize it now, but one day you'll understand what you're doing to them. And to yourself." "I'm doing my best," he muttered. "No, Daniel. You're doing what's easiest for you. And it's not the same thing." I walked away, straight-backed. Later that night, Jamie knocked softly on my door. "Grandma," he whispered. I sat up in bed. "Come in, sweetheart." He tiptoed in, clutching a blanket. "Can I sleep here tonight?" "Of course." He climbed into bed beside me. After a moment, he said, "Daddy said you're leaving." I exhaled slowly. "Yes, I am." "Because of me?" My heart cracked. "No, baby. Never because of you. Will I still see you? I'll visit all the time. And you can call me whenever you want." He was quiet for a moment. "I wish you were my mom," he said, so quietly I almost didn't hear. Tears prickled at my eyes. "I love you more than you can imagine, Jamie." He curled into my side, and I held him until he fell asleep. The following weeks moved both too fast and too slowly. I sorted through my things. I left most of it behind. I didn't need much. A few boxes, clothes, some framed photos. Every time I passed Olivia's coloring pages on the fridge, I felt my resolve waver. But I reminded myself staying meant silence. Staying meant watching from the sidelines while the damage deepened. One morning, as I sat in the backyard with my tea, Marissa joined me. She looked tired again, but softer. I wanted to say thank you, she said. For what? For standing up for them. For seeing what I couldn't. Or wouldn't. I didn't answer. Just reached out and patted her hand. I used to think Daniel was just stressed. That it would pass. But you're right. The kids are scared. I'm scared too. That broke my heart more than anything. Are you okay? I asked. She shrugged. I don't know. But watching you leave made me realize something. If I had an ounce of your courage, maybe things would be different. I didn't push further. But in that moment, I saw the flicker of something in her, something like hope. The night before I moved, I sat with the children on the porch swing. Jamie had made me a card. It was crooked and messy and perfect. I'm going to miss you, Olivia said, climbing into my lap. I'm going to miss you too, my little butterfly. Will you still tell us bedtime stories? Always. Over the phone. And when you visit me. Daniel didn't come out to say goodbye. He stayed in the living room, watching TV. Marissa helped me load my boxes into the car. When I hugged her, she whispered, I'll try. For them. And then I drove away. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. I arrived at my new apartment just before sunset. The garden out front glowed golden. A neighbor waved. Inside, it smelled like lavender and fresh paint. I unpacked slowly. I put up Jamie's card on the fridge. I set Henry's photo by the bed. That night, I lit a candle. I sat in the quiet. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was intruding. The days in my new apartment were quiet, sometimes too quiet. There was no Olivia bursting through the hallway with glitter on her hands. No Jamie asking me to read just one more chapter. There were no slammed doors, no angry footsteps, no tension that clung to the air like humidity. Just silence. I thought it would feel like peace. But at first, it felt a little like grief. I missed the small things, setting out the kids' lunchboxes, folding their socks, helping Olivia braid her doll's hair. Even the mess. Even the noise. But then, one morning, I woke up without that sinking feeling in my chest. No dread. Just the warmth of sunlight spilling through the curtains and the sound of birds outside my window. I made oatmeal. I read the paper. I watered the small potted plant Grace gave me. I sat on my porch and watched the wind move through the trees. And I realized something. Peace takes time to settle. It doesn't arrive like a trumpet blast. It whispers. It builds. And eventually, it becomes a home of its own. A few days later, Marissa called me. Hi, she said. Her voice was small, uncertain. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? There was a pause. Then a sigh. I left. I froze. What do you mean? I took the kids. We're at my sister's for now. I couldn't take it anymore. After you left, it just got worse. I didn't speak. I didn't want to interrupt whatever bravery she had managed to summon. He yelled at Jamie again. Over homework. And then he kicked the dog's water bowl across the kitchen. Not at anyone. But God, it scared Olivia so badly she peed herself. Oh, honey. I just grabbed them and left. I didn't even pack a bag. I don't know what happens next. But I know I can't go back. I'm proud of you, I said, voice thick with emotion. You did the right thing. I wish I'd listened to you sooner. It's okay. You listen now. She started crying quietly. And for the first time, I didn't feel helpless. I felt steady. After that, we talked every day, sometimes twice a day. I told her about the senior book club I joined, how I'd volunteered to help with the library's children's hour. She told me about Olivia sleeping curled up in her arms, about Jamie starting to smile again. One day, a knock came at my door. It was Jamie. He held a big paper grocery bag, full of crayons and construction paper, and one very lumpy container of what I think was spaghetti. We brought dinner, he beamed. Marissa stood behind him, holding Olivia's hand. I let them in, my heart swelling. They stayed for hours. We played board games, colored pictures, and read 3 stories before bed, even though no one was sleeping over. When they finally left, Olivia kissed my cheek and said, Grandma, your house smells like calm. I laughed, but later, in bed, I repeated her words in my mind. Your house smells like calm. What a thing to offer. What a legacy to leave behind. Weeks passed. Then one day, Daniel showed up. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was folding laundry when the knock came. I opened the door, and there he was, a shell of the boy I once raised. Dark circles under his eyes, shoulders hunched. He didn't look angry, just lost. "Hi," he said. I said nothing. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, then nodded. He sat at the edge of the sofa like he didn't know how to hold his own weight. "I don't know where they are," he said. "Marissa and the kids?" He nodded. "She won't answer my calls." "I know," I said. "She asked me not to tell you." He looked up, eyes glassy. "I don't even know how it got this bad." I sat in the armchair across from him, arms folded tightly across my chest. "It didn't happen all at once," I said. "It was slow. It was shouting instead of speaking, control instead of listening, fear instead of love. I never hit them. No, but you made them afraid to exist around you." He looked away. "You yelled when they needed kindness. You punished when they needed understanding." He ran a hand through his hair. "I was under so much pressure. Work, bills, the house. I felt like I was failing. And instead of asking for help, you lashed out." He nodded. "I'm not here to scold you," I continued, "but I won't excuse you either." He didn't respond for a long time. Then he said, "Jamie called me Dad again. Once. Before they left, he'd started calling me Daniel." I exhaled slowly. That's a child setting a boundary. His eyes welled up. "I don't want to be like this anymore." I believed him. I really did. But belief doesn't mean forgetting. You need help, Daniel. Real help. Counseling. Anger management. Therapy. "I've already made an appointment," he said. "To know it's late. But I want to fix this." Then start by apologizing. To them. And mean it. Then give them space. He nodded again. "I never meant to hurt you, Mom." "You did," I said. "But I'm healing. So can you." He left after that. I watched him walk to his car, slower than usual, like he was carrying more than just his weight. A month passed. Then another. Marissa found a new apartment, small but bright, near a school Olivia liked. Jamie joined the soccer team. He wasn't very good, but he ran like the wind. Olivia started ballet. I helped sew her tutu. Daniel stayed in therapy. He sent letters to the kids, never demanding, always soft. He told them about the books he was reading, the things he was learning about himself. Jamie wrote back, eventually. A single line. "I'm not ready to see you, but thank you for trying." Daniel showed it to me. He cried. And then he kept going. One day in October, we all went apple picking. Me, Marissa, the kids, Grace, even Grace's granddaughter. Jamie helped me climb a low step ladder. Olivia held my hand. And as I stood there beneath the apple trees, sunlight dappling the ground, laughter surrounding me like a warm breeze, I realized something. I hadn't lost my family. I had found the version of it that could finally breathe. One that chose softness over fear, kindness over pride. One that knew healing didn't come from silence, but from the courage to speak and the strength to walk away when love turned sharp. A week after the apple picking trip, I sat at my little table by the window, writing thank you cards for the birthday gifts I'd received. 79 came and went quietly, but the kids made me a banner with construction paper apples and glitter glue that still hung above my door. I was sipping chamomile tea when the phone rang. It was Daniel. "Hi," he said. "I hope this isn't a bad time." "No, I've just been writing notes." "I saw Jamie today, at the soccer field." My breath caught. "He didn't run away?" "No," Daniel said quietly. He waved. I waited. He didn't say much, but he let me sit beside him on the bench. I imagined that scene, father and son, a quiet space forming between them where once there had only been shouting. "That's a start," I said. "He told me he's afraid I'll go back to how I was." "What did you say?" "I told him he has every right to feel that way, and that I'm working hard so he never has to feel like that again." I felt tears rise in my eyes. "I'm proud of you," I said gently. There was silence. Then he asked, "Do you think one day they'll forgive me?" "I think children want to forgive their parents more than anything," I said. "But they'll only do it if they believe it's safe." "Thank you, Mom, for everything, for not giving up on me." "I did give up for a while, Daniel. I had to, but I never stopped loving you." "I know," he whispered. After we hung up, I sat quietly and let the moment settle. Growth, I realized, is rarely dramatic. Sometimes it looks like a father sitting on a bench beside his son. Sometimes it looks like a mother letting go just enough to let her child return in his own time. That December, we had our first holiday apart. No big dinners, no forced smiles around a tense table. Just me in my apartment, The kids with Marissa and her sister, and Daniel spending the day volunteering at a shelter. It should have felt sad, but it didn't. It felt real, honest. In January, Jamie called me from his mom's phone. "Grandma," he asked, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think people can really change?" "Yes," I said, without hesitation. "But only if they want to. And only if they try, every single day." He was quiet for a moment. "I think Dad's trying." "Then that matters." Later that month, Jamie agreed to have lunch with Daniel, just the two of them. Marissa stayed nearby, just in case. But she said it went well. They ate sandwiches and played checkers. No heavy talk, no pressure, just reconnection. Olivia took longer. She was younger, and her memories of yelling and fear were fuzzier, but deeper in some ways. But when Daniel sent her a book with a recorded message inside reading the story in a gentle, steady voice, she listened to it 3 times in one night. In spring, something unexpected happened. Grace's granddaughter was hosting a charity event at the library, a sort of multi-generational storytelling evening. She asked me if I'd come read something. I almost said no. But then I thought of Jamie and Olivia. Of all the bedtime stories. Of the silence I used to live in. I said yes. The night of the event, I read a short story I'd written about a little bird who forgot how to fly because the winds in his forest had always been harsh. It wasn't until he found a quiet glade, far from the shouting of the storm, that he learned the air could be gentle. When I finished, the room was quiet. Then came applause. I spotted Jamie clapping, beaming. Marissa beside him, smiling with tears in her eyes. Olivia was in Grace's lap, holding a paper bird. And Daniel stood at the back, hands in his pockets, eyes red. Later, he came up to me. "You wrote that about me, didn't you?" "I wrote it about a lot of people," I said. He nodded. "I'm trying to be that quiet glade. I really am." "I see that," I replied. "And so do they." One sunny afternoon in May, Daniel invited us all to a picnic in the park. It was the first time we'd all been in the same space since I left. He had packed sandwiches and lemonade. Olivia brought a bubble wand. Jamie had a soccer ball. Marissa was cautious, but open. And Daniel? He laughed. Not forced, not loud, but warm. At one point, Jamie tripped and spilled lemonade all over the blanket. We all froze for a second. Old fear briefly flickered in the kid's eyes. But Daniel knelt down, smiled, and said, "Well, I guess the ants are going to throw a party." We all laughed, even Marissa, and I saw the tension melt from Jamie's shoulders. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Daniel walked with me to the car. "You know," he said, "when you asked me not to raise my voice, I thought you were judging me. But you were trying to protect them. And me. I was trying to protect what's left of the boy I once knew." He looked down. "Sometimes I wish I could go back. Undo it all. You can't. But you can write a new chapter. And I think you are." He hugged me. Not a rushed hug. Not the kind that ends out of politeness. But a long, strong, steady embrace. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For coming back into my life even when I didn't deserve it." "You didn't lose me," I whispered. "You just had to find me again." By the time summer arrived, something remarkable had taken root not just in Daniel, but in all of us. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward pauses, still moments when old wounds rose like bruises beneath the surface. But the house wasn't silent in the way it used to be. It buzzed with healing. One Saturday, Jamie and Olivia spent the weekend at Daniel's house. It was the first overnight since Marissa had left. I'll admit I barely slept that night, heart tight with worry. But Sunday morning, Jamie called me. "We made pancakes," he beamed. "Dad let us pour the batter and everything. And no one yelled." I laughed. I cried, too quietly, after we hung up. Because that tiny update held generations of hope. Later that week, I had dinner with Daniel. He had cooked nothing fancy, just spaghetti and meatballs like we used to make together when he was a boy. The air felt calm. The walls no longer echoed with tension. It smelled like garlic, basil, and, surprisingly, forgiveness. "Do you ever think about Dad?" Daniel asked, pouring me a glass of water. "All the time." "What do you think he'd say about all of this?" I thought for a moment. "I think he'd be proud of you for choosing softness over shame. I think he'd be proud of me, too, for finally choosing myself." Daniel nodded, his eyes distant. "I wish he were here." "So do I. But some lessons we're meant to learn after they're gone." We ate in comfortable silence for a while. After dinner, we looked through old photo albums. Jamie's baby pictures, Daniel's graduation, Henry holding newborn Olivia with tears in his eyes. Sometimes, Daniel said, I don't recognize the person I was a year ago. That's a good thing, I replied. I just want my kids to feel safe around me. That's all. And they will because you're not just saying it. You're living it. Before I left, he hugged me again. That had become more common now. He didn't pull away first. He held on like a son who had finally come home. In early August, Olivia came to stay with me for 3 days while Marissa attended a conference. On the second night, she asked, Grandma, can we make cookies for Daddy? I smiled. Of course we can. We baked his favorite oatmeal raisin, just like I used to make when he was 10. Olivia drew a picture of a big smiling sun and wrote, I love you, in purple crayon. She taped it to the cookie tin. When Daniel picked her up, he opened the tin, took a bite, and teared up. She remembered, he whispered. You remembered. I nodded. Healing is made of small gestures. A soft voice, a baked cookie, a child's crayon heart. As September approached, Marissa invited me over for dinner. It was the first time we had truly sat alone since she left Daniel. We ate grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, and warm bread. You know, she said softly, there was a time I thought I'd never be able to look him in the eye again. And now, he's not the same man. I nodded. Neither are you. She smiled. Sometimes, I catch myself laughing again. Real laughing. That's how you know you're healing. She poured us tea and leaned back. You gave me permission to leave, she said. You didn't even say the words, but your decision to walk away gave me strength I didn't know I had. You gave that to yourself, I said. I just reminded you it was there. We toasted to that with mismatched mugs and tired hearts slowly finding rest. Later that month, Daniel organized a family picnic. A real one, no tension, no guilt. Just blankets, games, and stories. Jamie asked me to bring the dominoes. Olivia insisted I bring the big blue storybook, which we'd read at least 100 times. Everyone was there, Daniel, Marissa, the kids, even Grace and her granddaughter. After lunch, Daniel stood up and asked everyone to gather around. I just want to say something, he said, voice steady. A year ago, I was angry, lost, and hurting everyone I loved. I thought I was in control, but really, I was drowning. He looked at the kids. I scared you. I know I did. And I'll always be sorry. Then he turned to me. And Mom, I said things I can never take back. Things I didn't mean. But I meant it when I said I was trying. And I'll keep trying. Every day. I looked at him, my son, not just by blood but by effort. A man reshaped by humility. We clapped. Jamie hugged him first. Then Olivia. Then, slowly, Marissa. They stayed like that, a family, rebuilding not what was, but something better. A few weeks later, I sat on my balcony in the early morning, tea in hand, sweater wrapped around my shoulders. The sky blushed with sunrise. A soft breeze danced with the curtains behind me. The phone rang. Morning, Mom, Daniel said. The kids asked if you could come by this weekend. They want to show you the garden we planted. I'd love that. We saved a spot for you, he added. Your own planter. They want you to grow tomatoes. I smiled. Sounds perfect. After we hung up, I sat still for a long while, thinking about how sometimes love hurts, about how sometimes the people we raise break our hearts before they find their way back, about how leaving isn't the same as abandoning sometimes. It's the first step towards saving everyone involved. My story didn't end the day I asked my son not to raise his voice. It began again quietly, painfully, bravely. And now here I was, not in the background, not walking on eggshells, but living, teaching, growing, still a mother, still a grandmother, but now finally my own person again.